Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Trump is going to win. Here's the deal. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona. We're going to give, for this conversation, and it's probably the case, Biden won Michigan and Wisconsin. Just forget about that. Trump doesn't need them. Trump needs to hang on in Georgia. Most of the Atlanta votes are in. Trump's lead is down to 18,540 votes. So he'll probably hang on there. Maybe the lead will dwindle down to maybe 10,000 or so, but he'll probably keep winning and win in Georgia. Pennsylvania, going into the ending election night, Trump was up 700,000 in Pennsylvania. His lead now is down to 164,000 as we speak. Now, the good news for Trump here, 70% of the vote is in for Philadelphia County. And if we keep the current voting trend in that county where Biden wins 80% of the vote, Biden will pick up probably 60,000 votes. So that means Trump will be leading by 100,000. And I don't see where else he can get that in the rest of the state. All right, you look at Allegheny, Pittsburgh. It's actually Biden's not winning that much in Allegheny. There's a couple red counties that still have some votes to trickle in, Bucks County and some other ones that would make up any difference in Allegheny, Erie, et cetera. I don't see Biden picking up 100,000 votes. It'll probably end up about where Trump won in 2016, about 44,000 votes, right, in Pennsylvania. So Trump's going to win Georgia. He's going to win Pennsylvania. Honestly, they should wrap up Georgia like now. That should just be called. Pennsylvania, we got to wait till Friday because they're still accepting results. We'll get to that in a little bit. So Trump would have 268 electoral college votes. Biden would have 259, which means it comes down to Arizona. Whoever wins Arizona wins the presidency. You ready for this? Whoever wins Arizona wins the presidency. Now, there's also Nevada out there, and that would apply too. But let's just focus on Arizona. That's all that matters here, Arizona. Watch this video. This is Steve Cortez, who's one of Trump's advisor guys here.
Let's talk the actual math of the Arizona vote, where it stands right now and what the trends are. There's 605,000 outstanding votes, an enormous amount of votes still to be cast. Right now, we have a deficit of 93,000 votes. Biden is clearly leading, but here's the thing. These votes that are outstanding are mostly election day votes. POTUS needs to win 58% of these remaining votes to make up for this deficit. Here's the election day trend in Maricopa County, which is by far the biggest county where Phoenix is, 62%. So it's very likely that we're going to eclipse the level we need and actually substantially win Arizona. But in addition to that, these votes are not all from Maricopa. They're also from the rural counties of Arizona, where we're doing much better than 62%, even into the 70s. So the math suggests strongly that we are going to win Arizona, and we will know as soon as Friday. Because of that, it's reprehensible for any news organization, Fox or AP, to call this state at this premature juncture. The president is going to win Arizona.
To be clear, if the president wins Arizona, he wins re-election, period. That's it. Game over. As he said, AP and Fox both called Arizona for Biden. No one else has. This is why conservatives who are outside where they're counting the votes in Arizona, this is why they're chanting Fox News sucks. Because they inexplicably called Arizona way too soon. And the Trump campaign was furious when they did it. I think they called it when like 30% of the vote was in. It was crazy. So, and the AP's sticking by it. AP's standing by what they're claiming. But here's my point. You don't have to be conspiratorial. Right? You don't have to be conspiratorial. And I don't want to be. Let me say this. Let me put it like this. Here's as conspiratorial as I'll go for now. If the media calls Arizona for Biden, then they could say, oh, Biden got 270 votes, 270 electoral college votes. That's it. He won the White House. Biden wins. Congratulations. They drop the balloons and they do the whole thing. That's the big story, the big media storyline. Headlines across the country, Biden wins the presidency. But then Trump comes in and he's fighting it. Oh, look at the president. Look at the former president starting a coup, refusing to step down peacefully, calling the military, drag him out. What a tyrant, just like we knew he would be. If you're a Democrat, you got to declare victory as quickly as possible, even before all the votes in Arizona are counted. And I think you're going to see that out of them, certainly as it gets a little closer here. Does that make sense? That's why, as conspiratorials will go, that's why I think they called Arizona so quickly. But it could also be ineptness. But there's plenty of time to wheel that back. All right, now, at the time of that video, Biden was up 93,000 votes, as Steve Cortez said right there. Right now, as we speak, Biden is up 68,000 votes. A couple of those votes have come in. The results that have come back, right, since that video, Trump is leading 58-40, which means if it keeps that pace, Trump would win Arizona by about 15,000 votes. You with me? If the remaining votes it's like 400,000 votes left. If the remaining votes come back at a 58 Trump, 40 Biden rate, which is what they have been, then Trump wins by 15,000 votes and he wins the presidency. Are you with me on how amazing of a moment we're living in right now? It's surreal as these final votes are being counted. It's super close, yes. But the Trump team has every reason to be hopeful. And again, not a conspiracy. Maybe you could call it wishful thinking at best. But I don't think so. I think, as Cortez says, this is math at this point. And the fact that they're talking about it on MSNBC of all places, Fox News isn't talking about it because they can't, because they're trapped saying that Biden won, right? They'd have to call it back before they could have a conversation about Arizona again. So Fox News isn't talking about it. But they are on MSNBC. This is on Rachel Maddow's show. And if you listen carefully, you can hear her in the background say, "Oh, God," as this is being explained. Here it is.
Of the new votes that were just reported out, Donald Trump won 43,966 of them. Joe Biden won 30,322 of them. Donald Trump is getting around 59% of these votes.
That's crazy.
Now, yeah, so that is, remember the three buckets here.
Yeah.
The first bucket was the early. Biden won it by 10. The second bucket was the same day. Trump won it by 26. The third bucket, you're looking at the start of that. Now, this is not all of it. What we just got here, again, about 75,000 votes. Remember, they said there's about 400,000 and change to come out of Maricopa County. So we got 75,000 of 400,000 plus out of Maricopa County. This pace of 59% for Trump, it might change as more ballots are added into here, so let's see. But this at least establishes, I think, up front, the possibility here that this third bucket of votes is a Trump-favorable bucket of votes.
Okay. I'm not just telling you there's a chance Trump wins. I'm telling you it's likely. I don't want to get hopes too high, but it is likely. Those buckets he's talking about, just to help visualize this. There's three buckets. The first bucket are the early voters. And as we're all experts now, those skew Biden. The second bucket are day of voters, people who go on election day and fill in the bubbles, right? And those skew heavily Trump, like very heavily Trump. The third bucket that we're talking about here are people, there's a few, there's like military ballots and whatever, right? But the big one in the third bucket is people who have their mail-in ballot and they hand deliver it in person on election day at the polling location. Those are the votes we're counting right now. Those people skew Republican. These are people who, like, maybe they don't trust the post office, right? So they're not gonna put it in the post office, but they don't really wanna stand in line either. And I got it right here. Here, you have it. And they think they're done. And they are, right? But that's what's being counted right now. And that skews Republican. And as you just heard right there, Trump needs 58% of those in order to win Arizona. Cool. So, in the meantime, Trump has to win the storylines. He has to win the media narrative. We're going to talk about this tomorrow in great detail. We're going to talk about story arc, and there's a reason why. But Trump has to win the news cycle every day from here on out. And he has to frame this properly as he is the presumed winner. And it's Biden who's stealing it from him. The media, the narrative that his team is doing right now is that the Dems are trying to steal it. And although there may be truth to that, and I think that needs to be worked on in the background, especially in Philadelphia, in the foreground, Trump needs to have a posture of, oh, let's just count the votes. Count the votes and of course we'll win. Fox, AP, you guys called Arizona way too soon. We're just going to finish counting the votes, and we're going to win legitimately in those states. Media, what are you guys doing? Why are you acting like Biden won? We clearly are winning, and we're going to win, and I'm excited to keep our team in power for another 4 years, just like the voters want. Why are you acting like Biden won? CNN. Why are you acting like Biden won? Fox News. That's not true, and we'll see in a day. As opposed to, this is crazy, Philadelphia stole it from us, right? That's not the posture in the foreground that Trump needs to have right now. I would argue that Biden won the news cycle yesterday. He got out there, did a good statement, looked presidential, nice stage, American flags behind him, calm and focused. Trump didn't do anything yesterday. He had Rudy Giuliani outside of some trailer building with this little makeshift podium looking like he was some nobody activist at a local city council race. It was very low rent yesterday. And again, that courts not having the election stolen by phony ballots in Pennsylvania, like that needs to be worked on and totally, like full steam ahead on that. But that shouldn't be the front and center messaging for the next few days, because that is going to be framed by the media as Trump being desperate, and Trump is the one stealing it from the real winner that we all know is Joe Biden. Make sense? So here's an example of Giuliani yesterday, but again, I think this needs to be background information, background work, not foreground, but alas, here it is.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeremy Mercer, and I was at the polls, or at the pre-canvass yesterday from 7 a.m. until just after midnight, back again this morning just before 8 a.m. until around 2:30, and as has been described very well, we're there, supposedly observing, but we can't see. We're further away than I am from you all here, at least 100 feet away from open ballots that go back out of our sight. We can't see them. We don't know what's happening to them. It's just, there's no way for us to meaningfully observe the process from where they have us.
Could you tell us how many ballots approximately went through that process that you had no chance to observe?
Based on the counts that we've heard, it's about 125,000, maybe more.
Well, so that should be deducted from the count. Those are ballots that were counted in violation of the law without an observation. And since this is a novel procedure, this mail-in thing, observation is particularly important to satisfy the possibility that you can defraud. This isn't as if you come in and show an identification. So that's what we're going to be seeking here and in Wisconsin, and quite possibly nationally, if there's as much evidence in Arizona and Nevada and Michigan.
No questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, I'll say this.
Thank you.
I'll say this again, just to be real clear. They need to do that. But if they make that the forefront of their messaging, the media is going to frame it as, oh, Trump didn't really win Pennsylvania. I think Trump will win Pennsylvania without having to go back and cancel votes or not count these votes or whatever. I think Trump will win Pennsylvania. So there's really no need to make that the forefront messaging. Okay, enough of that. And I say Pennsylvania's still accepting votes till Friday without being postmarked. Like, that's crazy. And the Supreme Court should probably rule on that. But I think he's going to win regardless. All right, one last thing for now. We got to take a break. Why was Arizona so close? I want to give 2 points here that I don't think people are talking enough about. First, what if the entire presidential race comes down to Arizona Republicans not voting for Trump like they otherwise would have because of the things that Donald Trump has said about their local hero, John McCain, and his widow, Cindy, touring the state, telling Republicans to vote for Biden? What if enough Arizona Republicans were tuned off by Trump's comments to make this a closed state or possibly even a blue state for the first time since 1996 and then 1948 before that? That'd be pretty wild. Second thing, and this is the thing that no one's talking about, Nebraska's 2nd district. Trump lost Nebraska's 2nd congressional district for 1 electoral college vote. If he won that district, even if Biden won Arizona, even if Biden won Nevada, it would still be a 269-269 tie, which would then go to the House of Representatives, which Trump would win. Now, I thought that Trump did not win that congressional district because it was Omaha and Democrats win the cities and there was no chance. But that's not true. That congressional district race for Congress, the Republican won. The Republican candidate for Congress won that district, but Trump lost it. Why? How? Could it be because of the things that Trump has said about Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse over these last 4 years? That's all really annoying. Think about it. If Trump won that district, then none of this would matter. It'd be 269, and Trump would have won in the end. So in the end, don't let the media tell you it's over. Remember, Al Gore fought until December 13th back in 2000. So don't let the Democrats whine, oh, this needs to be wrapped up for the sake of our republic, blah, blah. It's November 5th. Count the votes. Trump can, and I would say most likely will, still win. And to President Trump, this can be your finest hour. Fight. We elected you 4 years ago to fight. Keep fighting. Do not let the media win. Right now, as I speak, gold's at $1,928. It's up $70 in 6 days. And I still think it has a ways to go up. There's maybe 3 time frames that you can be thinking of when you're doing this, right? I mean, you have the current chaos, which is going to get worse, right? Imagine if the media calls Arizona and Pennsylvania for Biden after the Democrats thought that Biden was going to win all of this. Or imagine if the media calls Arizona and Pennsylvania for Biden, and then the Supreme Court comes in and says, no, you can't count these votes, you can't count those votes. It turns out Trump won those states, Trump wins the presidency. Holy cow, you think the left is going to say, oh, okay. No, there's still plenty of chaos to come in the short term, which helps gold. Medium term, you have the value of the dollar. All right, the value of the dollar is going to plummet with this unprecedented spending from COVID, unprecedented lockdowns, and the economy tanking because of it all. That's medium term, and that helps gold prices. And then long term, like generationally, what a gift to pass down to your kids and grandkids. 40 years ago, gold was $170. Now it's almost $2,000, right? Your grandkids will thank you. So long, medium, short-term thinking, maybe a mix of all of them. Get some gold and silver in your hands right now. I can't tell you how easy it was to do this and to work with Patriot Gold Group. It takes like 2 seconds, and they'll answer all of your questions. And if you have any problems whatsoever, you won't, but if you have any problems whatsoever, send me an email, let me know, and I'll put you in contact. And just know you're working directly with the owners, even when you call right now. That's why they're rated so high. That's why they're rated the highest. 1-800-798-4260, 1-800-798-4260, or patriotgoldgroup.com. Hey, Slater Crusaders. So we were just talking about court cases and what the posture of the president and the White House needs to be moving forward here. But the court cases should be sought, right? Like, we still need to move forward with that. But what would that even really look like? What would a Supreme Court case look like when it comes to voter fraud or whatever? Tommy Pinion's here. He's the Vice President of Government Relations at the Heritage Foundation. Hey, Tommy, talk to me about Pennsylvania and what a Supreme Court case could look like out of Pennsylvania in particular.
Yeah, well, this is one location where the Trump campaign has sued. There are several locations where the Trump campaign is suing. And in Pennsylvania and other locations, what they want is what they are calling meaningful access to the location where the ballots are being counted. This is something they say is guaranteed by Pennsylvania election law. They want to be able to see those who are counting the ballots, verify themselves that they are checking the signatures, checking the postmarks, those kinds of things. They say ballots have been counted already, and they were not granted meaningful access for the counting of those ballots. They want the counting to be stopped until they are able to do that. And it seems like a reasonable case to me. It's going to be decided on the Pennsylvania level in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. But as you saw, Rudy Giuliani is also indicating they might be interested in making a federal case out of it.
So what could the Supreme Court do? Because Rudy Giuliani in that clip we just played said he wants to throw out the 125,000 ballots that this one particular guy said they were not able to observe. But the ballots are already counted. Like, what could one do? That's a big ask to throw them out, right?
It is a big ask, but that also is the law. The law is that the campaigns are to be granted access to the counting facilities to observe that process. That is one remedy. What Giuliani suggested, There are others. A recount would be among them, or the court could get creative. When you think about it, it really isn't such a big ask to know who really won this election. We want every legal vote to be counted, no more, no less. And I think that's what every American wants. And that's what the Biden campaign should want as well. And how are you going to know that if you aren't able to grant what the law guarantees you, which is the ability to observe the process?
Do you know the details of the exact claim they're making? Like, what is they did not get meaningful access mean exactly?
I don't know, and I think it's that's going to be up to them to make that case.
I wonder if they can prove
access
that.
to me, if I'm assigned that by the campaign, I want to be close enough that I can see the ballot. I want to be able to see with my eyes that the person counting it is checking the things that they're able to count, and verify that the whole law is followed. If you're on the other side of the room, you aren't able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And I hope they can prove the Trump team needs to prove it and not just have hearsay about it. Interesting. What do we know the Supreme Court could do about this decision from the state to allow unpostmarked ballots to arrive in the mail in Pennsylvania until Friday at 8 p.m.? Because the state Supreme Court said that's fine, that's great. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled 4-4 not to hear the case. So what could be the future of those votes, which are very open to fraud?
Well, there's an interesting wrinkle there, and that is that there are now 9 members of the Supreme Court. No longer are there 8 members, as there were when they made that decision, thanks to the introduction of Justice Amy Coney Barrett. And of course, the Supreme Court can hear that case now on the other side of the election, and they could decide that that was an improper decision, that it did not follow the law, and they could decide it on any basis. It could be the number of days. It could be about checking the postmark. It could be about anything. What we need here is a subset of ballots that is big enough to turn the election, and then that litigation, that specific Supreme Court, the case, the whole thing could turn on. If the number of questionable ballots is enough to turn the election, then just like 2000, we're going to have a microscope on that set of ballots, and the Supreme Court going to have to decide in time for the Electoral College to meet on January the 6th.
Wow. That would be, now first, I think Trump will win Pennsylvania without having to do that. But for some reason, I was thinking that because the Supreme Court said they're not going to hear it, that means they can't hear it again. Like I'm like applying some double jeopardy law to it or something like that. But you're saying they could hear it again if they wanted to.
Absolutely. I think in the decision not to hear the case, the Supreme Court even indicated you can bring this back. We don't have time to do this before the election, or it's impossible to be done before the election. But they did not close the door to that very same case being brought back now.
Wow, and that's amazing. Gosh, that's amazing. I'm just trying to see that through, because they have a good argument that, at least Trump's saying, the Secretary of State unilaterally extended the deadline. And that needs to be done legislatively, not through executive fiat. They have a pretty good case, right?
Absolutely. The Pennsylvania Constitution will say that the state legislators have the legislative power. They have the ability to make laws, not the Secretary of State, not the governor. Like on the federal level, that isn't their role. And the Supreme Court will make that decision. But voters in Pennsylvania, they vote for state legislators who represent them in the lawmaking process. They didn't get that representation, and I can't think of a more important instance where you need it.
Yeah, okay. Give me another state. Or are there other lawsuits that are thrown out there other than just Pennsylvania?
The Trump campaign, the first lawsuit they filed was in Michigan. Same issue, meaningful access. Of course, that has been called now. But the Trump campaign says, look, we want to know the results of this election. And there's you still have Nevada ballots outstanding and potential litigation there. You still have Arizona ballots outstanding and potential litigation there. Same with Georgia, same with North Carolina.
Yeah. Where are you on the conspiracy to ineptness spectrum when it comes to how we've seen votes come down and irregularities? And I don't even want to really go down this road, but like the Wisconsin turnout is like astronomically high. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, look, I'm a realist, and I know that both exist. Absolute incompetence is a big problem with our federal government and our state government. So I know that incompetence exists, and I also know that voter fraud exists, that voting irregularities from time to time are motivated by partisan individuals who are trying to change the results of the election. So it's some mix of both. But I'll tell you what I think very strongly, what I feel very strongly is that we have to check out every question, every allegation that is made, every set of ballots that is questionable. The American people are owed, and our democracy depends on reliable election results. So there can be no sweeping under the rug. There can be no moving on. Let's just get a president and heal as a nation. In order for our democracy to survive, we got to know the answer.
Al Gore went till December 13th. You say the Electoral College meets when? January what?
January the 6th. January the 6th.
Okay. So we got time to figure this all out. Tommy Binion, I think I said Pinion earlier. Sorry, Tommy. Tommy Binion, Vice President of Government Relations at the Heritage Foundation. Awesome, Tommy. Appreciate you.
Have a great show. Thanks.
Have a good day. Wow. Again, I don't think that'll be necessary in Pennsylvania, although it could be with those unmarked ballots. We'll keep an eye on it. Of course, true story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders. I came across this nice quote yesterday from our friend Rob Henderson. He was quoting Napoleon, and Napoleon was talking about what makes a military genius. And Napoleon said, the man who can do the average thing when everyone else around him is losing his mind. I feel like there's a lot of that right now, a lot of losing of minds, and all we have to do is the average thing. Frank Luntz and all the pollsters, they can't even do their job ever. Frank Luntz, he said, the political polling profession is done. It's devastating for my industry. Last month, he said the same thing. Last month, he said, the public has no faith, there's no confidence. Right now, the biggest issue is trust deficit. If Donald Trump surprises people, then my profession is done. And here we are. Check this out. This is the New York Times. New York Times is an A+ rated pollster by 538. And they overestimated, I think we have the graphic for this, guys. They overestimated Biden's support by 6 in Florida, 4 in North Carolina, 10 in Wisconsin, 10 in Iowa, 9 in Ohio. But other than that, great job, guys. Here's the problem. We'll never get rid of polls. As bad and awful as they are, we'll never stop with them because humans hate uncertainty. And we need to know what's going on. We need to know what's going to happen in the future. So they'll never go away. This is why horoscopes will always be a thing. I can tell you they're complete bunk, completely made up. But we so desperately want to know the future. People keep reading them. Ooh, it was right. I did have an unusual encounter with someone from my past this week. This random horoscope for Libras was right. Horoscopes will stick around and polls will stick around, and they'll both be just as accurate. Here's the most positive spin I've heard of where we're living right now, and I like it. He said, how do you not find this entertaining? Right, I think we have a choice. Just like prior to the election, you had a choice between being anxious or excited. There's a choice right now. We can be like mopey and whiny and tired. And maybe I was a little bit yesterday, but I got a good sleep last night. And now I have a way different attitude. How do you not find this entertaining? This guy, he said that we're literally living through tumultuous history and the future's unknown. I hoped as a kid that I'd be alive through one of these eras of massive upheaval. This is glorious. And I like that's a nice spin on the Abigail Adams quote that these are times in which a genius would wish to live. Great necessities call out great virtues. That being said, I realized something last night. It would have been 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago and this morning, yesterday morning. Sorry, my days are still, what day even is it? One of the reasons that I wanted Trump to win, one of the reasons why I voted for Trump, not the main reason, I want to be clear, maybe like the 8th biggest reason, like the 8th to 12th biggest reason why I voted for Trump, is I really wanted to stick it to people, all right? to the left in general, right? Like college professors, people in the media, really just wanted to stick it to Rachel Maddow. I wanted a montage video like the one from 4 years ago, where everyone on MSNBC and CNN is crying as the results come in. Like I really, really wanted that again. And also, and I'm not proud to admit this, maybe I wanted to stick it to some people I know. Not in their face, but just, I wanted to know that they were not. See, notice I'm saying it out loud, and it's not a good thing. I'm not proud of this at all. And again, it wasn't a primary motivation. There's plenty of other good reasons to have supported Donald Trump. This is not one of them. This should not be a good reason at all. But part of my disappointment yesterday was because I was like, that's not gonna happen. There's no giant red wave and I can stick it to the man. There's not gonna be any giant CNN, MSNBC montage of crying news anchors. Bummer. That was part of my disappointment. But then I realized no one's gonna be sticking it to anyone from this election. Now, it's gonna be crazy when Trump comes from behind and ends up winning this thing, as we talked about in the first segment with Arizona. But in the end, no one's happy. Everyone is disappointed. Democrats are disappointed because there was no giant blue wave, no massive mandate, no huge rebuke of the evil tyrant Nazi dictator in the White House. Also, they don't control the Senate. So my mom, for instance, my mom is a huge, flaming on fire Democrat. Hates Donald Trump, thinks he's the worst person who's ever lived. Used to love him before he ran, but we used to watch The Apprentice together. Right? Anyway, my mom lives in South Carolina. She thought Lindsey Graham was going to lose his Senate seat. In October, middle of October, the Democrat in South Carolina for the Senate was up 2 points. I remember talking to my mom. She was so excited that Lindsey Graham's going to lose. It was like $120 million was spent on this race to oust Lindsey Graham. And he lost by, or I should say, Lindsey Graham won by 14 points. Something ridiculous like that. So my mom, she may be happy that Biden seems like he's going to win, although he's not. But she's ticked off that Lindsey Graham just crushed it. So, no one's happy. Dems aren't going to be sticking it to anyone. Republicans aren't going to be sticking it to anyone. Everyone, of course, can add their own little spin on things and make themselves feel a little better. But there's no spike in the football. And I think that's why everyone, these last day or so, has just been kind of like, All right. I think the analogy going with football is, let's say you're watching your favorite team, and your favorite team has the ball, and they're going to win the game. Right? It's a last-second touchdown pass to win the game, and the quarterback throws it and gets tackled, and it's such a hard. He gets severely injured on the field. And the other team, they intercept it, and they run back. They're going to run back for a touchdown, and the guy trips on the 1 yard line and doesn't score the touchdown. And the game ends, time's out, and it's a tie, and they have to end the game because the guy got paralyzed on the field, and no one can play anymore, and the game's over. And everyone's like, that wasn't fun. No one won, really. I thought we were going to win, and then the other guys thought they were going to win, and no one won. And we're all like, what do we? I think that's America kind of right now. But I'm here to give a little bit of invigoration back in the game. Because, again, I think Trump is going to win here today or tomorrow, possibly. It's crazy. Real quick, there's going to be moments of trying to make sense of things from everyone, but from the left in particular, especially when Trump wins. As you notice, actually, these last day or so, the left's been pretty tame, right? They've been pretty calm or whatever, and I don't know what that is exactly. I think they may be, I'll tell you this, they won't be when Trump wins Arizona. You haven't heard a lot about the Electoral College being the most horrible thing in the world, have you? Because they think Biden won the Electoral College. But as soon as Trump wins it, get ready. But this happened in 2016 too. You get these Democrats, they kind of do a little we should really reflect on where we're off compared to the other half of the country. Here's David Brooks. He says, our job in the media is to capture reality so that when reality voices itself, like election night, people aren't surprised. Pretty massive failure. We're still not good at capturing the rightward half of our country. And Tom Cotton wrote back, the senator from Arkansas, he said, well, maybe you don't fire your editor for publishing conservatives. Remember back during all the riots? Tom Cotton wrote an editorial in the New York Times, and the New York Times staffers were so outraged that they would dare print an editorial from a Republican senator that the New York Times ended up firing the editor of the opinion section. It was just like a couple months ago. And David Burge, he wrote this, he said, yes, the quadrennial, perhaps we should don our pith helmets and venture into the deepest wilds of West Central Ohio to better understand this strange and elusive species. But don't worry, it only lasts for a few minutes. The left's curiosity of how does the rest of the country think? And perhaps, hopefully, there will be a massive sea change on race happening in our country. Trump for 4 years was called like the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Disavowed it 100 times nonstop. And in the end, he got a greater share of non-white voters than any Republican ever. And the only demographic my understanding is that he went down on is white men and white women. So think about this, when Trump loses votes among white men and white women because they think he's racist, but gains votes among non-white men and women, what do those white people say to that? Like the ones who didn't vote for Trump because they think he's racist, what do they say about the people over here who did vote for the racist, right? So I guess you have two reactions. You can either say, oh, look at those racist Hispanics, or look at those Uncle Toms, and Cubans aren't really Hispanic anyway. That's one reaction. Or maybe, just maybe, Trump wasn't really racist. And you voted against someone, and these last 4 years, you've attacked someone because you were tricked. You were tricked by a media who made up out of whole cloth that he was racist. And because he wants to have strong borders and doesn't want terrorists coming into America, the media called it kids in cages and a Muslim ban, and you fell for it. I'll spare you playing the clip and having to hear from Al Sharpton, but he said that the large Cuban influence in Florida is because they fell for the propaganda that the left is bringing in socialism, right? And I love that from Al Sharpton. You silly Cubans, and you're believing the propaganda against socialism. It's not like you got on makeshift rafts and escaped it, and you see exactly what we're dealing with here in America with exceptional clarity. And the rest of the country needs to be listening to you more than anyone else, as opposed to just dismissing you as a bunch of gullible rubes, as Al Sharpton did. I don't know what will come from all this. Hopefully we take all the pollsters and put them in a rocket and shoot them to the moon. Hopefully we could take all the race baiters, fit them in that rocket as well. We may need a bigger rocket. Hopefully we stop watching cable news. Fox News calling Arizona. Are you kidding me, Fox? Hopefully, frankly, we stop being obsessed with federal politics at all. Get back to focusing on our circle of control. And that's ourselves and our family and then our local community. I was just reading last night, Philemon, shortest book in the Bible. Paul wrote this letter to a guy, Philemon, and he said, your love has given me great joy and encouragement because you, brother, have refreshed the hearts of the Lord's people. Don't you think we need some refreshment of our hearts? Each of us do and our country does. We need some refreshment in this country. Let's stop listening to the people who are exhausting. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders. By the way, notice there's a bunch of rioters outside the election center in Arizona. At least that's how the media is characterizing them, when really they're just standing there with flags and praying, and at best, at worst, chanting Fox News sucks, and the media is calling them protesters. But actual looters and rioters, they're called peaceful protesters. protesters. That's what I mean by media narrative. Watch out for that. We're going to talk a lot about that tomorrow as well. Storylines, media storylines, and how they're trying to get you to believe some of them when that's not the truth. So we'll do that more tomorrow. All right, let's end here today. Joy Pullman, I like her a lot. She's a writer. She's at The Federalist usually. She wrote an article, 9 things that we can do right now while we're awaiting election results. You can do the thing I've been doing for the last 48 hours, and that is obsessing over every single individual county and doing the numbers and figuring out the math and what number to... And that is exhausting and will make you go crazy. So what are some other things we can do as normal human beings instead? So she has a list of 9 things, and I recommend all of them. First, pray for your enemies. Sounds trite, doesn't it always? But Jesus did it. Jesus did it on the cross, so we should do it too. Second thing she said is repent. And it's true. We've not loved our neighbors as we ought. We have not, or we have trusted in man above God. We've fallen short on many charitable thoughts and deeds. So always a good time to recognize those and ask for forgiveness for them. Third thing is pray for evil to be exposed. Fourth, pray to love your neighbor. I'll never forget David Azaran talked about the concentric circles. Remember that? Concentric circles of personal responsibility and how conservatives start from the center out and progressives go from the outside in. And it's you, family, community, nation, world. And the progressives focus on the world. I'm a global citizen. And then come into the nation and then their community and then their family and then themselves. But it's backwards because the further are you out, the less ability you have to control and influence those things. Especially, Jordan Peterson asks, if you don't focus on yourself, if you don't get your own life in order, your own room cleaned, you can't take care of these other things. Anyway, let's refocus on the things that are in our control. Because you know what's not in my control right now? I guess there's an extent, but Arizona voter counting, right? There's people who need to watch and all that stuff, but I can't, refreshing Twitter and voting results is not helping that. But I can love my neighbor. Pray for the truth to win. That's all I want more than anything. In the meantime, let's not forget our duty as leader of your family, husband, wife, father, mother, church member, boss, friend. Let's continue to fulfill our duty to the best of our ability, even in times like this. I don't know of a single Republican who Wednesday, when it looked like Biden was going to win, I don't think he will if you're just tuning in right now, by the way. I think Trump will win. But every Republican went to work, right? There was no National Day of Mourning on Wednesday. There were no Republican college students. Oh, I can't do my work. Everyone just went to work and went on with their life. Maybe a little down in the dumps, but they did it. And that goes back to the Napoleon quote that we shared earlier, that Napoleon's definition of a military genius is the man who can do the average thing when everyone else around him is losing his mind. Just continue to do what you do best, even in times of this crazy turmoil. Or you can even spin it positively, which is what I prefer to do. This is awesome. This is an amazing time to be alive. And I refuse to go through this down in the dumps through the rest of this time. Number 8, don't let the media get inside your head. A lot of crazy things are coming in the next few days and weeks. You thought we were done. Did you think we were going to be done on Election Day? We still have a lot to go. A huge majority of Americans believes that the media lies to them. And it's true. So stop listening to them. Stop listening to them. Use that time. Curate your inputs wisely. We say it all the time. Maybe it's extra true now. Curate your inputs wisely. I hope we're part of that. And I hope you use the rest of that time instead of refreshing Twitter every 10 seconds to go and serve others. Came across this quote from, so the 9th thing is to pray for your country. Came across this quote from Ben Franklin. I love this. This is so good. He said, "The longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We've been assured, sir, in the sacred writings, that except the Lord, unless the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. And I firmly believe this. And I also believe that without his, God's, concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. And if you don't know the story, that didn't go well. We shall be divided by our little partial local interests. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and byword down to future ages. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter, from this unfortunate instance, despair of establishing governments, be human wisdom, and leave it to chance, war, and conquest. As opposed to God's wisdom. I love that. I love that part there, right? That if we, Ben Franklin saying, if we, our founding fathers, if we don't do this right, if we don't build this country properly, if we don't build it on a rock, if we don't build it on a foundation of God and justice, then we will fracture. And even worse than that, the generations after, that's us, we will establish governments on merely human wisdom because we won't have a model to look at. So we, future generations, that's us, will build our governments on merely human wisdom, which of course will crumble quickly. Amazing insight from Ben. Love that guy. All right, fun times. I think Trump's gonna win. We'll have some more Arizona election results tonight. Georgia, I think Georgia should be called today. Pennsylvania, we're still gonna have to wait on because they're gonna be accepting results, but let's keep an eye on the court cases there. And then Arizona, we'll have a really good idea tonight on how Arizona's going. Trump, again, has to get 57, I think it's 57.7, but around 57% of the votes that are remaining in Arizona in order to win. And then he wins the presidency. That's where we're at. Don't listen to the media telling you that Biden has this thing in the bag. He most certainly does not. Keep it right here on The First for the latest, and we'll see you tomorrow. True story, Mike Slater. Spread the word.